Dog Soldiers. The first werewolf movie ever made was simply titled The Werewolf and was released in 1913 before becoming a lost film. Since then, there have been quite a number of them, including The Wolfman, An American Werewolf in London, Ginger Snaps, and Teen Wolf, as well as plenty of other movies that happen to have werewolves in them. Dog Soldiers, directed by Neil Marshall in 2002, takes a squad of British soldiers and drops them into the midst of a nightmare in the wilderness, in which they have to survive against, spoiler alert, werewolves. Blending action, horror, and humor, it's a low-budget but highly entertaining and effective film that has firmly reached cult classic status. Let's take a look. The film opens with a couple camping in the Scottish Highlands, and the woman gifts the man a solid silver letter opener. Later that night, in their tent, the two are interrupted by the tent's zipper slowly opening, before a wolf-like creature bursts in and slaughters the two. While this is occurring, in Wales, Private Cooper is fleeing from armed pursuers with dogs through a forest. Although he puts up a good effort, he manages to get captured, and it's revealed that this is a testing exercise being run by Captain Ryan, head of a special forces unit that Cooper is trying to join. Ryan congratulates him on avoiding capture for 22 hours, but says that the real trick to survival is not in running and hiding, but in removing your enemy's capacity to hunt you down. He then hands Cooper a gun and tells him to shoot one of the dogs, and while Cooper initially believes him to be joking, he refuses. Ryan yells at him, asking what use he is to the team if he can't even kill a dog, but Cooper continues to refuse, so Ryan sends him back to his squad, before killing the dog himself. While it seems fairly unlikely that a special forces captain would just execute a trained dog for no reason, the filmmakers have said that they did it to really paint Ryan as a villain, and I think that did it. Cooper angrily attacks Ryan but is quickly overcome, and Ryan tells him that he doesn't do second chances and he never forgets. A month later, Cooper and the rest of his squad, including Privates Joe, Spoon, Bruce, and Terry, along with their sergeant, Wells, are put on a training exercise in the Scottish Highlands. The squad are left by helicopter in the middle of the wilderness, armed with blanks in their rifles, and the exercise involves moving across the highlands while evading notice from an SAS unit. Most of the squad is clearly not pleased about the exercise, especially Joe, who is upset about missing an important football match, and they don't seem to take the mission too seriously outside of Wells and Cooper. The two go over their plan for the mission, and Wells chides Cooper for having a lucky rabbit's foot. Cooper says that he needs all the luck he can get, and Wells says that he's not sorry that Cooper failed his test, as the squad would be a lot worse off without him. The squad begins heading out as Joe continues to complain, and we see a montage of them trudging across the highlands. While on a break, Cooper tells the squad a story he heard about a young couple that recently went missing, with their tent ripped to shreds and blood everywhere. The papers said that it was a monster, like the beast of Bodmin Moor, while locals said it was an escaped lunatic, but no one's been caught. Every so often, people come through here and are never seen again, although the group clearly doesn't put much stock into this. It's soon revealed that the SAS unit they're competing against is the one led by Captain Ryan, who is fully aware of the squad's position and continues to monitor them from a distance. Around a campfire that night, the squad discusses what scares them, with Cooper saying that he's afraid of spiders, and women, and spider women. Terry wants to know what scares the sergeant, and despite Spoon saying that nothing scares the Sarge, Wells replies that the thought of never seeing his wife again scares the shit out of him. That, and the little things that make your skin crawl and the hair stand up on the back of your neck. He goes into a story from 1991 in Kuwait, when his unit was sent in to mop up the last pockets of resistance at the end of the Gulf War. Just before they left, he and another soldier named Eddie Oswald got tattoos after having some drinks. Wells got a desert rat, but Eddie, being a bit of a believer, said that his soul belonged to God, but his flesh was way beyond redemption, and it was up to Satan to save his skin. So he got a laughing devil tattoo on his rear. 6 days later, when they were making a routine sweep, Eddie triggered an anti-tank mine. After the rest of the squad recovered, Eddie's body had been scattered across the area. Wells says that it puts things into perspective when you pick up pieces of your friend and put them in a garbage bag. What really messed with them, though, is when they found a bit of Eddie with a tattoo on it. Everything else was burnt to a crisp and covered in blood, but the bit with the laughing devil was perfectly clean. Wells says that you could say that Satan did save Eddie's skin, just not all of it. Or you could say that Eddie was just unlucky, but it taught him to keep a very open mind. The story unnerves the group, leading to silence, until Spoon decides to lighten the mood by going into a joke about a guy walking into a bar. He's soon interrupted, however, by a corpse of a cow landing in the midst of their campfire, causing the group to panic, and Terry to start shooting blanks at it. While inspecting it, Cooper notes that it's been ripped apart by what looks like teeth marks, with Wells saying that it died of natural causes. Terry wants to call this in, but Wells says that there's no way he's breaking radio silence because they got spooked by a dead, flying cow. He sets up a watch, and the rest of the night passes uneventfully underneath a full moon. Nearby, Ryan begins looking around in fear, hearing sounds approaching, and he's soon attacked by a creature. The following morning, the squad inspects the blood trail that the cow left, and Wells decides to follow it out of curiosity. They track its path for some time before a flare suddenly shoots up in the distance. Heading towards it, they find a grisly scene of carnage amidst a military camp belonging to the Special Forces unit. Wells tells the squad to ditch their rifles and grab the ones filled with live ammo, as they're up against some form of real, hostile targets. Cooper notes that whatever hit them hard and fast, as no one got a single shot off, but there's no bodies here. So Wells tells Bruce to get on the radio for an emergency airlift out of here. They're then startled by the sudden shout of Captain Ryan nearby, finding him grievously injured and in shock. Ryan tells them that they have to get him out of here, and repeats that there was only supposed to be one. Bruce can't seem to get through on the radio, and the Special Forces radio is completely destroyed. Cooper remarks that it doesn't seem like Ryan's unit is here for the training exercise, as they're not wearing any insignias, have live ammo, and are packing things like tranquilizers and nets. Wells tries to get some info out of Ryan, but he just yells that his unit was torn to pieces in front of his eyes. While inspecting their radio, Bruce notes that something's been fried, and also finds a transmitter that was placed in it. The group grabs every bit of ammo they can, but Ryan, now calmed down, states that it won't make any difference, as they won't die, and they should run for their lives before their legs are torn out from under them. It's getting dark, and they soon hear howls nearby, so the squad begins rushing across the forest, with Bruce covering their rear. Bruce, alone, spots something moving nearby, but his gun jams repeatedly when he attempts to fire at it, forcing him to flee through a dense part of the forest. In his panic, as a creature chases him, he runs into a sharp, exposed limb of a tree, goring himself, before the creature makes off with his corpse. Wells heads back to investigate, finding Bruce's body, but is also attacked by the creature, which manages to slice open his abdomen, spilling his guts out. He's narrowly saved by Cooper, and despite Wells yelling at him to leave him, Cooper shoves Wells' guts back in and hauls him to his feet. Their retreat is covered by the others, as gunshots ring out across the forest and the creatures rapidly approach. The squad manages to make it to a nearby road, where a vehicle is approaching. The vehicle stops, and a woman emerges, yelling at them to get in, so the squad promptly does so, just as one of the creatures lands on the roof. The car gets stuck in the mud as the creature's arm smashes through the roof, but they eventually make it out. The woman drives them to a nearby house, but they find the owners aren't present, so the squad enters and starts combing through it. They find the table set and stew boiling on the stove, and Cooper hears a door rattling, discovering it to be a dog, Sam. With the house clear, the squad posts up, field dressing Wells' injury and eating the food that's there. The woman tells them that there isn't a phone here, and the nearest town is a 4-hour drive, but Cooper says that it's their best hope, so he and Spoon head back outside to make sure the vehicle's still clear. Unfortunately, they find that the engine has been torn to shreds, and a number of the creatures are lurking nearby, forcing them to flee back inside as Cooper fires off a few shots, igniting the gas tank of the vehicle and causing an explosion. The creatures then try to break through the front door, and as the squad is desperately holding them back, Sam begins tugging at Wells' bandages. Ryan yells for the dog to shut up, before grabbing a nearby gun to shoot it, but before he can, Terry vomits onto the back of his head. Ryan angrily heads upstairs to the bathroom, as Cooper tells the others to establish a perimeter, and for Terry to make the squad some tea. While helping Wells, the woman asks Cooper if they came here because of them, but Cooper has no idea what they are, telling her that this was supposed to just be a routine training exercise. Cooper hopes that those creatures have had enough for the night, but the woman thinks that that's unlikely, stating that they're smart and they work as a team to look for weaknesses. Cooper, however, is dismissive, just stating that they're the enemy, and that's it. Spoon mentions to Joe that this reminds him of the Battle of Rorke's Drift in 1879, in which 150 British and colonial troops defended a station against 3,000 to 4,000 Zulu warriors. Joe remarks that Spoon is clearly loving this, while he is less than pleased about it. Cooper asks if they're dealing with wolves, but the woman says they're not entirely wolf, or human, but something in between, prompting Cooper to scoff at the idea of wolf men. The woman finally introduces herself as Megan and begins to say that she knows how to kill them, but she's interrupted by a cry of pain from Wells. It seems she regrets mentioning it, and Cooper didn't hear her, instead asking for her help with Wells. The two take Wells upstairs to try and patch him up a bit better, while the others search the house for any weapons, with Spoon finding a large sword in a chest. Wells loads up on painkillers and whiskey, in true Max Payne fashion, as Cooper and Megan prepare to seal up his injury with superglue. His cries of pain unnerve the other members of the squad, and he eventually begins shoving Cooper, telling him to knock him out. Cooper promptly punches him in the face, but Wells just swears at him and tells him to hit him properly. Cooper's second punch knocks him out, allowing the two to finish patching him up. Cooper asks her how long she's lived around here, and Megan says that she's a zoologist, so she heard the stories of the area and came here to investigate 2 years ago. Cooper says that she can't seriously believe in werewolves, but she certainly does, and says that he will as well before the night's over. Back downstairs, Cooper assures the squad that if they defend this place, they can make it through, and tells them that they're dealing with werewolves. While Spoon says that that makes perfect sense, Joe is not so convinced. Megan elaborates that she's tracked these things for the last year and studied them. Every month, when the moon is full, they hunt together as a team, having killed at least 15 people since she started observing them. She mentions silver bullets, but says that no one's ever gotten close enough to try. Cooper, however, is still not fully convinced, suggesting that they might just be escaped lunatics that forgot to shave, and regardless, it doesn't change their immediate situation. Cooper then introduces Megan to the rest of the squad, but when she motions to Ryan, Cooper says that he's not a member of their team, and his reason for being here is hazy at best. Ryan continues to be cagey, saying that he's just a soldier, and his presence here is a moot point since they're in the same situation now. Cooper says that they need to work with each other, but Ryan doubts that he needs him, despite the rest of the squad mentioning how much he needed them a couple of hours ago. Cooper looks at a portrait of the family on a shelf, as Megan tells him that they're the Uaths. Cooper then asks Ryan how he's feeling, as he seems to look remarkably well for a man who was on death's door not too long ago, with Ryan simply stating that he has a strong constitution. Cooper wants to look at his wound, and when he approaches, Ryan pulls a pistol on him. Megan manages to knock it out of his hand with a pan, and the squad ties Ryan up, finding his wound to be completely healed and scarred over. Before they have a chance to interrogate him, however, the lights in the house go out, as the creatures have shut down the generator. They soon spot movement on the perimeter, so they post up around the house to fend them off. What follows is an extended standoff, as the squad is attacked from multiple angles, and despite Cooper's order to employ short, controlled bursts, the group is cavalier with their ammo usage to fend off the werewolves. Utilizing auto and semi-automatic rifles, a shotgun, handguns, stun grenades, pots of boiling water, and even the sword, the squad keeps the werewolves from breaking in downstairs, but they soon hear a window breaking upstairs. Cooper bursts into Wells' room to find one of them standing nearby and another trying to get in. Cooper yells for Wells to wake up, distracting the werewolf with camera flashes before the two eventually get a hold of their guns and force the werewolves out, ending the siege. Terry, thinking that it's over and standing near a window, turns his back to the window and gets grabbed. When Cooper goes back downstairs and is told that Terry got taken, he immediately says that they're going to get him back, but Ryan tells Cooper to forget about him, as they all know that he's already dead. Cooper hesitates for a moment before swearing, knowing that Ryan is right. Joe says that somebody must have heard the gunfire, but Megan replies that the only other house within 50 miles is hers, and they were lucky to have run into her. Even if anyone did come, they'd just die, so their only hope is daylight. While patching up a cut on Megan's hand, she asks Cooper what their chances are. He tells her that morale is good, considering the circumstances, but that will only hold out as long as the ammo, and high spirits are no substitute for 800 rounds per minute. Megan says that he knows what lives in the shadows now, and he may never get a night's sleep as long as he lives. Ryan coolly interjects that he shouldn't worry, as he might not live that long. But Cooper just tells her that they're going to make it through this, as he doesn't scare easily. Megan makes a joke about his lucky rabbit's foot, and Ryan again interjects to say that they'll need a lot more than luck, causing Megan to yell at him. Cooper takes notice, asking if she knows who Ryan is, to which she admits that she was seconded to his team during their first visit here. Cooper ponders this for a moment before handing Megan a pistol. The squad is low on ammo, and Spoon says that they won't make it based on how many rounds they put into the werewolves already, to no effect. Cooper says that they either all have to run for it then, or hold the line while one person runs for help. Joe thinks that both choices lead to death, and after Ryan taunts him about it, he moves to attack him, stopped by Cooper. Megan then asks if anyone knows how to hotwire a car, as the family keeps an old Land Rover in the nearby barn. Joe volunteers, partly to get away from Ryan, and Cooper says that he's going to need a decoy as they all look towards Spoon. They decide to tie a rope around Spoon and have him jump out of the second-floor window to loudly create a distraction, while Joe jumps out the other window to make it to the barn. Spoon walks into the woods nearby and loudly yells for the werewolves to come eat him, lighting a flare. The distraction certainly works, as he's charged by a werewolf and narrowly makes it back to the house as Joe runs to the barn. The werewolf manages to get a hold of the rope, however, forcing them to cut through it, while Megan distracts the werewolf with more camera flashes. Joe, meanwhile, quickly hotwires the vehicle, but the headlights reveal another werewolf in front of him, messily devouring Terry's corpse. The werewolf tries to claw its way into the vehicle, but Joe slams on the reverse, bursting out of the barn and backing up to the house's front door. Unfortunately, there was another werewolf in the back of the vehicle, and Joe bravely attacks it with his knife. As the rest of the squad emerge from the front door and open the vehicle, blood pours out as they see the creature eating Joe. They panic as the werewolf charges them, but Megan pulls out her pistol and shoots it several times, allowing them a chance to close the door before it breaks in. In the aftermath, the squad somberly mourns Joe as Megan plays Claire de Lune on the family piano, and they hear numerous howls from outside. Shortly later, Cooper goes back outside to check on the state of the vehicle, but it's in no condition to drive now, and Joe's body is gone. Wells is now awake and walking around, so they sit back down at the table with Ryan, as Cooper tells him that he doesn't like their chances at this point. Cooper knows that Ryan knows more than he's letting on, and angrily yells at him about the friends that he's lost on this so-called training exercise. Ryan states that he understands his resentment towards him for failing him, but if he had passed, he would have been on Ryan's team, and would have already been dead. Cooper yells at him again to stop changing the subject, so Ryan acquiesces, but says that they won't like what he has to say. He says that Special Weapons Division saw an opportunity here, and called Ryan in to catch one of these creatures, alive if possible. He says that they underestimated enemy numbers, and takes full responsibility for the mission going wrong. Wells brings up the bug in their radio, and wants to know where his squad fit into this. Ryan simply replies that the reality is that they're expendable, and he had approval to put them at risk. He had purposefully made a gap in their lines, with them being good enough to spot it and predictable enough to go for it, leading them right into the werewolves. He had remembered Cooper, and specifically chose his squad because of him. This causes Wells to punch him to the ground, and the two throw Ryan across the table. When he gets up, they see that his eyes have turned yellow, his teeth have grown, and his nails have lengthened. Ryan begins groaning in pain and slumps back to the ground as the sounds of tearing are heard, before rising once again as a werewolf. Wells attacks him with a log from the fire, and Cooper stabs him through the chest with the sword, as Spoon's gunfire chases him out of the house. Afterwards, Cooper remarks that werewolves spend most of their time in human form, and the only people that live miles around live right here, so this is their home. Megan tells them that they're good and kind people, but Cooper just says that that's more of a pity, as they're going to have to kill them all. They look around the house for anything made of silver, but don't find anything, as Megan says no self-respecting werewolf would have anything silver around. The squad says that they could just burn them all, if they knew where to find them, leading Megan to explain that all signs point to them operating like a wolf pack, and they'll stay near their food supply, somewhere safe, sheltered, and warm, implying the barn. They decide to load the Land Rover with propane tanks and drive it into the barn, igniting the leaking gas tank from a distance. While preparing, Spoon asks Cooper what they're going to do about the sergeant, as he'll likely turn into one just like Ryan did, but Cooper just says that the Sarge is with them. Cooper decides to have a talk with Wells, who says that he feels absolutely fantastic, but that's the problem. Wells worries that they won't get all of them in the explosion, and tells Cooper to get out of here while he holds them back. Cooper thinks they've lost enough men already, but Wells shows his abdomen wound, now fully healed, and says that it's a full moon out. He compares it to possibly being like urinating, as when you have to go, you have to go. Cooper counters that maybe it's like needing to shit, as just because you need to doesn't mean you drop your pants and pinch one off. Wells says that there's one more thing he needs to learn about being in command, that sometimes the people you kill are your own men. Wells is okay with dying, stating that when he signed his life away on that dotted line, he meant it. Cooper still refuses for him to do any sort of heroic sacrifice, however, and they go ahead with the plan. Cooper drives the vehicle the short ways to the barn, with gasoline leaking the whole way, and dives out before it crashes into the barn. He yells for Spoon to light the gas trail, but he fumbles with the matches and can't get a light, leading Wells to come out and throw a Molotov cocktail. The fire quickly speeds towards the barn as Cooper runs back to the house, and the barn explodes in a ball of flame. Cooper turns to Megan, who simply apologizes to him and says that she hoped that they were her chance to get out of here, but now she realizes that there is no way out. She came here to be one with nature, but she got what she wanted, and now has to live with it. Cooper realizes that Megan also lives here. She's not in the family photo because she took it, and there were no werewolves in the barn when it blew. Megan tries to defend herself, but Cooper just dismisses her, and she begins groaning in pain. She angrily says that she didn't choose to be part of this pack, but now they're out of time. She tosses the house keys on the ground and says that they were always here, but she just unlocked the door, as multiple werewolves emerge from behind her. Just as she's starting to transform, Wells shoots her in the face, and he and Cooper rush upstairs while Spoon runs to the kitchen. Cooper and Wells barricade themselves in separate bathrooms as Spoon gets into a hand-to-hand fight with one of the werewolves. As a werewolf breaks through Wells's door, he uses a lighter and a spray can to torch its face. Cooper continues to try and break through the wall to get to Wells, as another werewolf begins breaking through his own door. Spoon stabs the werewolf numerous times with kitchen knives to no effect before beating it with a pan, but he's stopped by a second werewolf. He tells it that he hopes he gives it the shits before he's devoured by the two. Cooper manages to break into Wells' bathroom as he continues to hold the werewolf back with the makeshift flamethrower, and Cooper continues to try and break through to the bedroom next to them. They manage to do so as the spray can runs out, barricading the door and the hole in the wall, but it's clear that it won't hold for long. They head into the wardrobe, finding numerous bones at the bottom of it, but the werewolves are about to break in, so Wells shoots through the floor, dropping him and Cooper into the kitchen. Cooper asks where Spoon is, leading Wells to notice his dismembered corpse, and replying that there is no Spoon. They find a trap door leading to the basement, but Wells tells him to go, as he's in the beginning stages of transformation. Cooper argues, but Wells yells at him, stating that he needs to get out, if not for him and the squad members who died, but for his wife, and he hands Cooper the film roll from the camera. Cooper gives in and heads into the basement, as Wells puts out the fire in the fireplace and cuts the gas line to the stove. The three werewolves break into the kitchen and knock the lighter out of Wells' hand. He screams just before he transforms and hits the stove, creating a spark and igniting the gas, destroying the entire house and the 3 werewolves. Cooper and the dog, Sam, are unharmed in the basement, and after a break, Cooper begins walking around, finding numerous corpses hanging in the basement. He's soon attacked by another werewolf, this one with a sword sticking through its chest, and Cooper taunts Ryan as he's knocked around. Ryan grabs a hold of his head, forcing the sword into Cooper's mouth, but he's distracted by Sam leaping onto him. Sam's distraction allows Cooper to look around quickly for a weapon, finding the silver letter opener from the couple at the beginning. He jams it into Ryan's chest and proceeds to grab his pistol, firing the squad's last bullet into Ryan's head. Cooper and Sam emerge from the basement into daylight, amidst the rubble of the destroyed house. Over the credits, we see the photographs taken from the camera, alongside a tabloid with the headline, "Werewolves Ate My Platoon," underneath the scores for the big football match Joe wanted to watch, showing England beating Germany. The action horror genre is definitely a smaller subgenre compared to the much more popular survival horror, partly due to the increased budget it often requires, and partly due to it being trickier to balance the horror elements while maintaining an exciting action element. Dog Soldiers is certainly not as well regarded as classics like Predator or Aliens, but it manages to blend horror, action, and humor with likable characters, much like those do. Considering the limited budget, Neil Marshall managed to create a highly atmospheric film, especially considering that most of it takes place at a single location. A big part of why the film has aged so well is the usage of practical effects over CGI, with the werewolves rarely being shown in full, but looking great in the brief glimpses of them. Whether or not it's the best werewolf movie is certainly up for debate, but I think anyone with an interest in the action horror genre should give Dog Soldiers a look.